What's up, guys? What's going on? Welcome to your first Express video. Today what we're going to try to cover is more about, we're going to talk about what is Express. And the other thing about we're going to talk about is how do we use it? How do we use it? We're going to talk about something called routes. So these are the three main things that we're going to focus this session about, and really going to go deeper and really going to give you guys a really solid foundation about how to get started and how to get a very basic application up and running with Express. So let's kind of talk a little bit about the first one, which is what is Express. Like, what is Express? What does it do? Like, when do we use it? How do we use it? So Express is a web application framework for Node.js. Now, if you guys coming from a Python background, you might think about Express as Django or Flask. If you're coming from other programming background like Java or any other things, think about Express. I think that that's something that handle your route for you. This is what handles your route, like HTTP, or whatever. We could do Google, something like this, /user, something like this. But if you are a totally newbie, you have no clue about what is Express, you don't even know what Node is, like you're coming from a totally background, you have no clue what we're talking about, let's go ahead and get rid of this, because this will bring some much confusion for you. It's gonna lead you still into that confusion phase. Now let's kind of go over the browser real quick. Think about you going to GitHub or any other places, right? The first thing you type is you type something inside the URL. For example, I type GitHub inside the browser. Well, what this does for me is it's connecting to the GitHub server. Like, they have a server that when I type this is connected to. For example, if I go into something very simple, which I'm sure a lot of you have been using, Google, this is connecting to a Google server. Now, what's end up happening is the fact that we type the URL, that's how they keep track of where we are inside the application. For example, if I type something like Aximi Sterling, it's going to render something different. The first time I type on GitHub, it renders the home page of my profiles. But if I type something Sterling, GitHub server knows that I type something else and it renders a different page for me. So the bottom line is, based on what you type, it knows what to render for, like what to send you, like it's showing you this. Now think about it. If I type something like Express.js, it knows every single thing that I type, and it's rendering something different every single time that I type something. Now if I type something that does not exist, probably like blah 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 blah, it also built in a way that if you don't type something that they have, then they show you this weird little guy called 44 whatever. So the bottom line is, a server is able to keep track of whatever you type and send you the right information based on where you go. Now back to this, then Express can do something very similar for you, and this is called routing. So Express going to keep track of every single where you go, and based on where you go, then send you the right dynamic information for it. Now this is what Express is allowed to do. All right, this might sound interesting. This might sound something you guys get excited into. You might be like, well, this is cool, but how do we use it, right? Well, here's a few things. In order to use it, you need a few tools. First tool you need is something called Node.js. If you guys don't have it, you definitely need to get this installed, and that's pretty much, you go to nodejs.org and then you follow the instructions. If you guys own a PC or Mac, definitely go ahead and download it. And second things you do need, it's an understanding of Node.js itself. It's basic understanding of how you use Node. If you guys don't get this, then this is definitely going to be boring for you. So definitely highly recommend you go ahead and check this out. Like if you know how to use Node, of course you know how to use npm for sure. All right, now what we're going to finish this thing is routes. Like we're going to talk about different type of route inside Express. Like how do you set them? How do we have something like we just talked about? Okay, this is going to be the main focus about this video. Now let's kind of go right here. Let's kind of start real quick. We have a folder called YouTube right here. This is going to be a YouTube video, whatever, but we are in definitely the root of the project. So what we're gonna do is we're going to create a package.json. I'll do npm init -y, and if you guys haven't noticed, -y is just a quicker way of creating a package .json that will auto-complete everything for you. So boom, I have something that's auto-completed and ready to go. I got something like this. Now, second things I need a files. I need a server.js. This is where we're going to code every single Express code. Now, second things we need to install Express. And if you guys don't know what --save is, this is more of saving this as a dependencies. We won't go deeper into it, but this is what it's doing. Now, a quick shortcut you can do is instead of doing npm install, you can just do npm I, and this will technically go ahead and install everything for you. All right, this is going to take a second. Let's go right here. Yep. All right, awesome. And let's go into our server.js. Okay, and then we're ready to start coding. Now, to start with any Node application, any Node package we want to work with, of course, we need to require it. We're gonna require Express. And once we require it, then we're going to start an Express application. We're going to call this app. And to start an Express application, you just do Express in parentheses. You call it as a function. Call as a function right here. Or let's put something like this. Start an Express app. This is how we do it. And second things, we need to start a server. To start a server, you grab the app that you define your app name. I'm going to do app.listen. That's a method you do. Now I need to just start into a port, and boom, that's all you need. And to run this application, we're going to head over our terminal. We're going to do node and then the name of the files, and boom, application start. Now believe it or not, this is starting, but we need some sort of messages of knowing that, hey, you're starting a server. So we're going to stop this and go back into our code. And right here, right after the port, we're going to do something like a function. We're going to do some ES6, an arrow function. And we're going to console log something, just saying a message that we know for sure our server is starting. Like we can say app, it's starting at port 8080. So that's our port. And let's run our application again. We do node server. Of course, we got an error because we misspelled this. This is supposed to be console.log. Thank you, Mr. Deer. And boom, we got something like this. So this is much easy way of saying, of knowing that our application starts no matter what. Now, before I kind of open this in the browser, let me kind of break a few things down for you. So this number, this is a local port into your computer. We can put 88, whatever you want to, and so on. Now let's kind of go to this port to do this. We all have a default port into our everyone's computer called localhost, like a server called localhost. And then we can put whatever port we have defined. This one we define 8080. And boom, we got an error saying cannot get. So what's happening is, what we just did was we started a server. We bring Express and we bring Express app, and then we start a server, but we haven't defined any routes. And to define an Express route, you need two things. You need app.get, you need app.post. So this is going to be how you define a route. Or there is another way to do this, which we're going to cover as well. You could do router.get, router.post. Now, what we're going to really focus on tonight and really want you guys to understand is going to be this one. Let's kind of bring this one down. Gonna put this one at the last minute because we're definitely going to kind of show you guys the difference between app.get and router.get. Now we're going to define a route. We're going to do app.get. This is how we define it. It takes two parameters. The first one is a string of the path. The main path is technically slash. Basically mean this is going to be your home page. Just like when we go to GitHub, when we type GitHub like this, then this is GitHub taking us to the main page, which is that's what we're doing over here. And then the second parameter needs to be a function. Needs to be a function. It takes two parameters. That function takes two parameters. It takes one called rec. Now it takes a second one of them called rest. And then this is where we send a response back to the server. This is where we send what they call a response. Now, if you go back, when we go into GitHub, the response we find was a page, like a page, an HTML page of different things, layout and different things and so on. But for our case, we're not gonna send an HTML yet. We're going to send a JSON. To do this, we use the second parameter, which is rest, and you do that JSON. This is how you send a JSON back with Express. And we're going to send an object. We're just going to send something like it works, just to kind of see that this works. Okay, so we set up one route. We send a response, and let's kind of see what we got. To run this again, we're gonna stop the server and run the app again, and let's go back into 8080. Refresh this, and boom, we got something. It works. Like this is how we set up an Express route by using app.get. Now, this is great, but let's kind of go over what we just did because this might sound a little bit confusing. Now, if you guys wondering, okay, this takes two parameters, I got it, but is it supposed to be named request? Like, does it require to be this? No, it does not. You can name this anything. You can name this test, and then you can name this the second one test one. The only thing that matters is the order they are. The first one, it's for something, but the second one is how you send something back to the client. So if I wanted to send something back, then I would use test one. I would use something like this, test1.json, and I would send a different message this time saying this is also working. And let's tap the server again, and let's run it one more time, and let's refresh the page, and let's see if it works. Yes, it works. So the bottom line is you can name this anything you want. The only thing to keep in mind is the order they are in. The second one is what you use to send a response back. Now let's kind of delete this again. We're going to use response.json. And JSON is just how you send some JSON back. Okay, I got this. All right, awesome. Now this is how you do it with get. This is how you define a route. And we get. Let's stop this one more time, making sure this works. Let's see if it does. Refresh. And it still worked. Awesome. All right, now before we kind of go over and kind of walk you guys how to use these guys and compare to this, now let's kind of show you a few things. Now if I do something like username, just like something like Axime Sterling, like the way I had it, the way when I go to GitHub, and type /Axime Sterling and so on, let's actually do something like this. So we're gonna say, hey, when the user go to here, actually let's do something like this. On this, we're gonna do like, hey buddy, you are in the home page. We're gonna set another route, app.get, two parameter. The first one is the path. We want them when they go inside Axime Sterling, and then the second parameter is a function. So we're gonna define a function, and it takes two parameters. This time I call them rest, whatever, and then we're gonna send them a response saying that you are currently viewing my profile. All right, let's see what we got. Stop the server again. Oops. Node server, and let's see what this does. All right, and check this out. The home page. Hey, buddy, you're on the home page. But when I do to Axime Sterling, I got something like, hey, you're currently viewing my profiles. So this is how it works, and you can pretty much set up as many things as you want to. I can set up, okay, when the user go to something like express to route to parameter, the first one is where they want to go. For example, express.js, and the second parameter has to be a function. We're going to do this function and takes two parameter. Request that rest, we technically call it like this. We use the second parameter, and we're going to send you are viewing express. All right, now let's kind of stop this and check this out real quick, and we're gonna refresh it to the home page. We got a different message. Boom, we're gonna go to Axime Sterling. We got a different message, and we're going to go inside express.js, and we got a different message. But one thing we haven't done, which is very useful, is when we go to any other route, like whatever you type, it's going to send you a different built-in method. Like it's going to send you something like this, right? So what we can do in our case is we set up a route that's saying that for everywhere they go, remember the first one is the path. Everywhere, like any other places they go, we use a wildcard. And then the second parameter, which is the second parameter here, takes a function. And the same thing. All right, and we're gonna send a response again. And we can say something like page not found. So what's happening is, and one thing to keep in mind, guys, is the routing works in order. So the first place it's going to go is going to look for the home page, like slash, and then it's going to look for Axime Sterling, and then it's going to look for express, and then it's going to look for the wildcard. All right, now let's check this out. Stop the server and run it again. Let's go back to our application. The home page, we got the home page message. Now, if we type any other thing that does not exist, then this route, like this one, going to check for any other route after this, then we'll send something like page not found. You see that? Page not found. All right, let's kind of do one last thing to kind of show you. One thing I mentioned earlier was this works in order. For example, if I put this one as first, then this is going to be happening like everywhere else they go, like wherever else they go, it won't care about this, it won't care about this, it won't care about this neither. It will take effort on any other places it goes. For example, if we're gonna run the server again, and we're gonna try to go to Axime Sterling, which is this route. So we should see a message something like you currently viewing the profile page. All right, boom. You see page on this profile page, it says page not found, because the order matters when you're working with route. So this guy should be last, as seen as last resort. If this doesn't match, if this does not match, if this does not match, then go to here. So let's kind of recap, guys, real quick. We talk about route. First of all, we need to install Express. We do this by running npm. Let's clear this out. We do this by running npm install Express. And every single route, you define them like this, and then you start your server. Now, remember, I said there are two ways to define a route. Like this is one way, but there's another way with React Router. So how do we generate the same thing? Let's kind of comment this one out. How do we generate the same thing, but this time with router.get, router.post. All right, So here's how we do it. In order to do this, we need a further configuration. First thing we need to do is we need to import the router from the React router. So we're gonna do with router, and we need to get this from the express. So we do express dot router, and make sure it's capital router. Capital router. So once we get the router from the express, then we can start doing router.get. And this is going technically to be the same thing. Now we can just copy and paste these for simplicity's sake. We're gonna copy and paste these. So we're gonna do something like this, except these guys now are going to be the router. And this is when just copy and paste. Instead of app, this is going to be the router. All right, now if we try to run this node server, this is going to throw an error when we try to go to even the home page. Now let's try this out. Go to the home page. You see? It throws an error. It said cannot get. Remember, one thing I mentioned earlier was if you're using the express router, you're going to need further configuration. What you really need to do is once you have defined all your route that you want the router to use, in order for them to use them, then you need to do app.use that takes two parameters, a string of the home page, and then you pass it the router. This is how you define and tell Express that I want to use the router. Now let's stop this again. Let's see if this works. Go to the home page. And boom, we got something that's working. Let's try to go to Sterling. And boom, we got something like this. And let's try to go to something like Express.js that we define. And let's try to go to the other thing, and it's working as expected. All right, now let's kind of recap what we talk about, guys. We talk about, okay, this is how you start an Express application. You bring Express in, you start an app, and then you got two options. Either you use the router or you just use the app.get. And then you start a server like this. This is always a requirement required. This is required to start a server. If you do not start a server, then you won't have an application. Now, a few things we haven't covered, which we're going to talk about in the other in the other videos. It's okay. We are just sending straight text right now, but GitHub did not. What they're sending is they're sending HTMLs. So the next video, guys, we're going to be sending not text. We're going to be sending actually real HTMLs that might look something like this. So stay tuned, and if you guys feel like this video was helpful, definitely hit the like button. If it was not helpful to either, please hit the dislike button. And if you guys want to stay updated with more videos coming in, definitely stay tuned. Hope to see you guys soon.